Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I am your host Armando Venditti, and in this episode, I'm going to be doing, or Ryan and I are going to be doing another installment of Misguided or Misunderstood. But before we get into that, I want to introduce my co-host for this episode, Mr. Ryan Gavalier. How's it going, Ryan?
I'm doing really well. How about you?
I'm doing good for a Sunday afternoon. So yeah, sun comes up, sun goes down. It's like, you know what? Who gives a shit? Let's just do this and have a good time with this. Now, guys,
Yeah.
this episode we're going to be again talking about albums that are misguided or misunderstood by the fans. Again, whether they were misguided in terms of the group going in a different direction, or whether or not the public at large misunderstood what they were trying to do with said product. Now, for this episode, we're going to be talking about Fleetwood Mac. And I know you're probably thinking, misguided, misunderstood, what are you talking about? For this episode, the album that we're going to be talking about is Tusk. Now, Tusk was the follow up to Rumours from 1977. It was released 12th of October 1979 through Warner Brothers, produced by, depending who you listen to or the information that you read, um, on the album itself, it says produced by Lindsey Buckingham with Ken Collet and Richard Dashut. That's how you say his name. With thanks from the band to Lindsey Buckingham. But if you read other sources, it says Fleetwood Mac as a whole produced Tusk. Um, just a bit more background on the album. It was released again 12th of October 79. Follow up to the massive hit of Rumours. That was Rumours. Um, Released as a double album, thanks to Mick Fleetwood, because he was adamant that they were going to do a double album. Has 20 tracks on it. And with three main songwriters in the band, you would imagine that you would have a mixture of styles going into an album with 20 tracks. So, but we'll get into that in a second. Ryan, what is your history with Tusk?
Honestly, as a kid, I remember seeing the music video of Tusk, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, because I knew some of their hits, and I'm just like, this is the weirdest shit I've ever heard in my entire life.
Mm,
So as a kid, I didn't really appreciate it. As an adult, though, I think this is probably Fleetwood Mac's best album.
really?
Um,
Holy
yeah,
jeez.
I do. I think this album is so much better than Rumors, honestly. Because honestly,
Okay.
Rumors has some stuff I don't like on it, but this album doesn't have one weak track for me. And I also like typically I like albums to be 42 minutes or under. This one's an hour 14, but I don't think there's a boring moment on it.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
it's like I think part of it is because of I think yeah, I believe it was Lindsey Buckingham who did most of the production on this. I don't think that Fleetwood Mac produced it.
Yeah.
It sounds very, very, very Lindsey Buckingham, and it's
Ish.
brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's lo-fi rockabilly type of stuff, and I don't usually like rockabilly, but
Yeah.
when people make it sound really dirty like this, and when
Hmm.
you're as good of a songwriter as Lindsey Buckingham is, or Christine McVie is, or Stevie Nicks is, but I think mostly Lindsey Buckingham, honestly, for this one. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Adding like weird synths and adding cool Beach Boys like harmonies and like all kinds of weirdness. It's just absolutely brilliant and it's so ahead of its time. Um, what were you gonna say though?
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, you're right. I mean, looking at the album, and I mean, you gotta think of it too. A majority of the groups in the 70s in their catalog had a double album. Do you know what I mean? In terms of basically every genre. I think it was sort of like an unwritten law that when you
Yeah.
signed a recording deal with whatever label, that you had to do at least one double album, whether it be a concept or whether it be just a group of songs or whether it be a live album. And it's also got to be said, this was a time when record companies, to an extent, let their bands or their artists do whatever the hell they wanted to do in the studio. So I mean, if it meant bringing in a camel wearing a diaper, smoking a cigarette, like I've said before, if it got their creative juices going, that's what the record company did, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
um, whether or not it made sense was up to the artist, right? Because the artists were at that point wouldn't really be questioned, right? Because you know, if you're making a shit ton of money for the record company, they're really not going to question what you want to do. But I got to say, on this one, Warner Brothers did question what they wanted to do. Um, with regards to because I was reading up on it, and Mick Fleetwood requested that Warner Brothers build them their own studio for this,
Hmm.
and Warner Brothers said, "No, we're not doing that for you. I'm sorry." I mean, because I mean, at this point, as of I think it was as of February of '78, Rumors had sold 10 million copies. So I mean, they were still going on the strength of what Rumors was doing. They thought that they could get away with getting their own studio built, and Warner Brothers said no. So they took the royalties from Rumors and the previous, I guess, White album that the self-titled, and they built their own studio. So, but yeah, Lindsey Buckingham did take the reins of this album. He was adamant that it was not going to be the same as Rumors. It was going to be different, and he was, according to my notes, what I read, my notes, that sounds so pretentious, but according to what I read, he was influenced by Talking Heads and wanted more of an edgier sound on this album, like
Yeah.
totally different. So,
Yeah.
but okay, well, I mean, I'm just saying here, what I put in my notes was you have basically on this album three different styles of music. You have the edgy experimental stuff from Lindsey Buckingham, like Not That Funny, and That's All for Everyone, which I think is great. What Makes You Think You're the One, which I think is a fantastic track, because it starts with the drum beat, and then as it goes through the song, the drums start to sort of come unglued, like you hear sort of weird drum breaks and drum fills that he's doing through the track, and it all sort of comes unraveled, and then it just sort of comes together at the end, and it just ends with a big cymbal crash.
Yeah.
So,
No, absolutely.
that's the experimental side. Sorry, guys. And then you've got the more like I said, there's three styles. The edgy experimental stuff. You've got the introspective tracks like from Stevie Nicks with Sarah and Sisters of the Moon and Angel. And then you've got the more AOR friendly tracks from Christine McVie, like um, uh, sorry, songs like Over and Over and Think About Me and Brown Eyes. And so you've got three different styles from three artists, like three songwriters within the band. I mean, um, and I think, and I'll shut up for a second. I'll ask you this question. I think that it was normal, or at the time, normal, that a band would not want to repeat themselves with what
Hmm.
they did before. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, especially when you have someone in the band like Lindsey Buckingham, who's such a creative genius.
Yeah, it's
I
good.
mean, he's kind of like a Brian Wilson level, kind of like songwriter and producer. Like he's so talented. So I think it's natural that he would have that crazy, like experimental moment where he's really trying to push the boundaries and stuff and where the band is. I mean, like I was saying, I think this entire album is perfect.
So
I mean,
sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
I think well, I love all the Christine McVie songs on here so much because she's my favorite member of the band. Like in terms of vocals and in terms of like songwriting, I just love how emotional her songs are. And I
Mhm.
also think she's a really talented vocalist, which I can't really say the same for Stevie Nicks. Um, but
Yeah.
singing, I mean, Stevie sang on some very well produced songs. Um, so
Sorry, I didn't catch that. Stevie sang. So
she sang on some very well produced songs.
okay, okay. I see where you're going with that. Okay, I know where you're going
Yeah.
with that. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that alone is magical that Stevie's songs could sound so good because you can hear where she's struggling with her voice. You can hear little moments where her pitch slips out of the way, so they put in some backing vocals brilliantly, so you don't hear that she can't stay in pitch at all. Yep, that's there for sure, but
Like
it's production magic.
like storms. Um,
Storms, if it wasn't so well produced, would be embarrassing.
yeah, yeah. I tend to think that I think people I think people tend to forget that the way, and this is going to sound crass, but I don't give a shit. The way Stevie Nicks got into Fleetwood Mac in the beginning was that one of Lindsey Buckingham's conditions to get into Fleetwood Mac was that his girlfriend at the time, Stevie Nicks, go with him. So they were a package deal. So yeah, I tend to think you're right. I tend to think that if it wasn't for Lindsey Buckingham's production uh, style and his crafting of the music, that I think they would have, it would have, those songs wouldn't have been as great, like, as good as they are. I mean, like if you listen to Sarah, um, Sarah to me is a beautiful track. It's a beautiful piece. To me, it's like the centerpiece of the album. Um, and it's like 6 minutes plus. But if you listen into those mid sections, those middle sections where uh, the bass drum comes in heavier, and then you hear McVie's vocals, those ethereal vocals that come in the background. I think that lost you again there. That yeah, sorry guys, something wrong with the internet. Uh, but I think that I don't know if you caught what I said.
I actually you like cut out pretty bad.
Okay, did you want to start this again, or we continue?
We can continue.
Oh,
It should be
cool.
fine.
What I was just saying was, without Lindsey Buckingham's production techniques and his crafting of songs, ability to craft good songs, Stevie Nicks wouldn't. Stevie Nicks' contribution to Tusk wouldn't have been as good,
Yeah,
right?
I agree. I mean, I think when she came into the band, she was a better vocalist than she was at this point. I just think the cocaine ruined her voice.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
she is still a reasonably good songwriter and a good lyricist, and she's cool. Like I think Stevie is a cool persona, and I think she is a cool stage presence too. But I just think, yeah, without the production being as good as it was, those songs probably wouldn't be as good. The Christine songs, I do think would have been still at least really good because her voice was just so brilliant, and her songwriting is just top notch too. I mean, she's one of the most brilliant pop songwriters I've ever heard. Um,
yeah. Her voice is very velvety. I found it very sort of very soothing. Her
It's
vocal.
rare that it's rare that one of her performances don't make me like get goosebumps. I mean, like this album is, I think she's really like the highlight as a songwriter on this album.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Over and Over is beautiful. I was tearing up listening to that one again. It's one of the most beautiful ballads ever made.
Hmm.
Um, by the way, I don't have to go at 6 anymore, so we can go as long as we want.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and I mean, like, Think About Me is beautiful. I absolutely love that song. It's a cool rocker, but her voice is just so good on it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and like, I mean, I don't know, Brown Eyes is absolutely brilliant. It's got kind of like a cool, moody, sort of like jazz type of sound to the music, like a jazz rap rock type of thing, almost kind of like Steely Danish
Hmm.
at times. And then you have this beautiful vocal performance by her that's like so ahead of its time. It sounds like a dream pop song.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just so fucking good. I mean, that might be my favorite Fleetwood Mac song. It's so good.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and um, yeah, I mean, on top of that one, then you have like Honey High, which is absolutely awesome. Never Make Me Cry, which is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful song. And also she ends the album too with Never Forget. I think it's interesting that she starts and ends the album because I think everybody knows at this point that Stevie can't be the front person in the band.
Yeah. Yeah. I tend to agree. And I gotta say too, like before you cut out, I was saying that on Sarah, um, she delivers a fantastic ethereal vocal in the midsections, right? When the bass drum kicks in and it goes into that sort of very, I get the only way I can describe it is ethereal, a very dreamlike sequence
Yeah,
on the vocals, and you can hear her come in on that section. Beautiful, just amazing. I mean, she kind
definitely.
of she anchors that song for me, right? She keeps that song going. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, and by the way, guys, watching, if you can find it on YouTube, there's an 11-minute version of that song. So
Yeah.
I mean, if you can find it, grab it, listen to it. But yeah, no, I so am I safe in assuming that you think that Christy McVie's songs outrank Stevie Nicks' songs?
I think they outrank Lindsay's too. I think Christine was the heart and soul of the band.
Yeah.
But after, like, once she's pretty much the heart and soul of the band for me. She was there since almost the beginning. And I just feel like during the Bob Welsh era, there was so many times where she was the highlight of the band. I mean, early on, there was moments where she was. I just think she was the real deal, and she's always been my favorite. I think Stevie has some brilliant moments on this album, but I think there's a lot of moments where you could hear she's really struggling. And I think that that's the difference I'll make. I think she's a good songwriter. I think that she's cool, but she's only good when she knows her limits. And there's moments on here where she gives some beautiful vocal performances. When she starts trying to belt and shit, her voice just can't handle it. She like yelps. She sounds like a sheep or something. It's like it's
Okay.
it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
so, but
That's
I
fair.
think this, yeah, I think the songs are still good enough though, to where it never makes the album bad. I think Lindsay's songs are a lot cooler on this album too,
Yeah.
because I think he has some kind of cheesy shit on Rumors. Like I've or Rumors and Fleetwood Mac, because I'm not really a big fan of like Monday Morning or whatever, Sunday Morning, whatever it is.
Monday morning from
Monday Morning. I've never liked that song. I think it's
self-titled.
cheesy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's cheesy as shit. He has
Really?
songs like that that I'm not a fan of, but he also has some brilliant songs before this album. But I think on here he knocks it out of the park, and he's weird, and it sounds like he's doing a lot of cocaine, and it sounds like he's just like staying up all night working on these songs, and it's just cool. There's like awesome little keyboard parts.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
like cool like lo-fi bedroom production on a lot of his songs, and like a dirty rockabilly feel. He gives like such theatrical vocal performances.
Yeah.
I mean, like, um, That's Enough for Me is awesome. Walk a Thin Line is one of my favorites of his on here. That's a brilliant one.
Yeah.
Obviously Tusk is an awesome song. But
Now.
everybody
Yeah.
sings on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, like, That's All for Everyone. Not That Funny is awesome. You know, I just think all of his stuff on here is really, really cool. I think
Yeah.
some of it's better than others. Like some of it, I guess wouldn't say is exactly memorable, but it's all cool, and you could tell how
Yeah.
cutting edge he was at the time. Um, and like I said, I think Stevie Nicks, all of her songs are pretty beautiful. I mean, like Sarah's a gorgeous song. It's definitely like one of her best she's ever done.
Yeah.
Um, I think Storms is a really beautiful song because it's so well produced and has good backing vocals and stuff too. Um, Sisters in the Moon is pretty cool. Angel's all right. It's probably my least favorite of her songs on here, but I
Okay.
think it's still really good. Um, Beautiful Child, almost when I first started hearing it, I'm like, oh God, this might end up being really fucking embarrassing if it's not done right. Because it almost sounds like it's going to be really cheesy. And with
Hmm.
her voice, it could have been appalling. But it ended up being a pretty beautiful song that's like really effective, and it gives me goosebumps. I think
Okay.
she did a really good job.
Let me ask
Um,
you, let me just ask you a quick question. With those Stevie Nicks songs that, on the album that you say are good, how much of that do you think is her ability to write a song, and how much of that do you think is production construction?
I think it's a mix of both because obviously, like, someone had to write the melodies and stuff. So, like, I think she's good at ideas. But I mean, she wanted to make like Gold Dust Woman 11 minutes long, you know? I think
Mhm.
she just needs someone else to be like, all right, we gotta chill out. You know, like I think she's talented at writing songs. I just think that she's not the kind of person who could put out a finished product without some help.
Okay. Okay, I
I
got you.
mean, I don't really listen to her solo stuff. I think Belladonna has some good moments on it, but like I don't
Yeah.
really give a shit about Stevie Nicks' solo stuff. I think she really had some great moments in Fleetwood Mac, and otherwise I don't really care. But for
Okay.
to be fair, I don't really listen to anybody in this band's solo careers. I mean, I listen to Christine's a little bit because it's decent, but even her
Uh,
solo stuff isn't like not it's not as good as this stuff.
okay. Well, yeah, no, I mean, because it's been said in documentaries that by Lindsey Buckingham that that Stevie Nicks would bring in songs and that or song ideas, and that he would have to try and make them into songs, right?
Yeah, I mean
Being
that's
the
what he had to do.
being the producer. So I think she had some good song ideas. I mean, first of all, again, I think Sarah, like I said before you cut out, I think Sarah for me is like the centerpiece of the album. It ends off side one. Um, I think that without Lindsey Buckingham coming in and like crafting it in the studio and saying, okay, we'll do this, we'll do the change here, we'll do a change there, and we'll add in some ethereal vocal from Christine McVie. I think without that, I don't think it would have been the same. But I think that well, that's my question. Like, do you think that it was a case of her bringing in good ideas, or was it a case of Lindsay taking the songs and uh constructing them um in a
I
paladin? in a palatable way. Sorry, that's what I meant.
I just think both. I think it really is a mix of the two. Because she came in with the ideas. I just don't think. I think if she didn't have good producers there, and she
Yeah.
just released stuff as she put it out, I think it would be dog shit. That's basically where it's at. But I think it's good ideas.
Okay.
You
Okay.
just I just think that I think there's just a lot that goes into songwriting, and some people need more help than others. I mean,
Hmm.
I think like you look at you look at like a lot of people after like the mid 80s, they have multiple songwriters. It's not like it's not a rare thing, you know.
Yeah.
I just yeah, I think as like music gets better and better, there's like higher standards for the songwriting.
Okay. Okay. Here's an off the topic question. Prince wanted Stevie Nicks to write some lyrics for Purple Rain, the track, because he had it at 11 minutes before he cut it down to 8 minutes, and he wanted her to write some ideas for like lyrics. How do you think that would have fared?
I could have been cool. I mean, like, I think she has some good like lyrics actually. I mean, they don't always make sense, but I kind of fuck with that stuff. I mean, I Am the Walrus is one of my favorite Beatles tracks. Like,
Hmm.
I like weird shit, and she's very weird, and like, she has like a cool like witchiness to her vocal. I mean, her lyrics and like a almost mystical quality. So I like that.
Hmm.
And I think that Purple Rain is kind of cryptic in its lyrics too. So I think it could have been a cool mashup.
Okay. Yeah. No, interesting. I don't know. I'm thinking about that too. How would it have been? And for the record, she did turn him down because she was scared to tackle um the track in terms of writing lyrics. She didn't want to do it. She was afraid to. So we'll never know what it was supposed to be, in terms of lyrical ideas.
Yeah.
Just
I mean, like, look at like a song like Landslide. Those lyrics are beautiful.
yeah,
Like, I think she's just a really good writer.
yeah.
Um, I mean, it's like Bob Dylan. He's a terrible singer, but he's a good lyricist, and he's a lot of the time a pretty good songwriter.
Yeah.
I think they're very similar. Also, I thought about Stevie too. There's a lot of times on this album where she reminds me of who's the guy that just died from Canada?
Gordon Lightfoot.
She reminds me of him a lot on here. The way she phrases things, I think she definitely took some influence from Gordon Lightfoot on this one. I
I
hear it
can
a lot
I
of
can see
times.
the connection. Okay. I see where you're going.
Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Okay. Um, Here's another question for you. The album sold at overall 4 million copies. Um, as compared to uh, Rumors, which as of February of 78 sold 10 million. We won't even go to how many million copies Rumors has sold. Do you agree with Warner Brothers estimation at the time? It's a two-parter question. Do you believe or do you agree with Warner Brothers assertion at the time that it was a failure in terms of sales? And do you agree with the band when they turned on Lindsey Buckingham when the album didn't sell as much as Rumors?
Well, um, the first question, so you say, do you agree it was failure with sales? Yes. I mean, that's pretty black and white to me just because it sold so much less. It was a failure because it didn't sell more. Do I think that's any testament to the quality of the album? Not at all. I think it's so much better than Rumors. I just think people are stupid sometimes. and don't know what's good for them. Um,
Okay.
um,
He said it, guys. I didn't say it. So no hate mail.
um,
Okay.
so yeah, that's my answer to that question. And do I think that they were wrong to turn on Lindsey Buckingham? Yes, I think he was literally the genius of the band. And if they were too wimpy, if they had one sales flop to keep him around and like let him keep doing what he wanted, or yeah, they're stupid. Like he's brilliant. If they just want to be a commercial pop band that makes a lot of money and they don't need anybody with a brain in the band, they could just make some bullshit. Like, it's just
Yeah.
that's the way I'll put it. The
Okay.
fact that they turned on him in more recent time too, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, we'll go there. I'll go there. As all of you know that, as far back as 2018, they wanted to do a tour, and Lindsey Buckingham put his solo plans on hold, his solo tour on hold to go on tour with Fleetwood Mac. And Stevie Nicks gave them an ultimatum and said that if he's in the band, I'm no longer in the band. And they turned around and got rid of Lindsey Buckingham. He subsequently sued them for, not on a personal level, on a business level. He sued them for loss of income because he put his tour plans on hold to do a tour with Fleetwood Mac. They subsequently brought in Neil Finn and Mike Campbell of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, brilliant musician, multi-instrumentalist, brought them both in to take Lindsey Buckingham's place on vocals and guitar.
Yeah.
So I think they made the wrong decision. I personally think if they got rid of Stevie Nicks and kept Lindsey Buckingham, they would have had a good tour. And as you can tell, Ryan's walking around the apartment, taking me for a bit of a tour.
Yeah.
So
I gotta get my laundry real quick.
There you go. He's multitasking, ladies and gentlemen. So, getting back on track with my question here with the topic of the show. Do you think this album was a misguided step, or do you think that it was misunderstood by the audience and the media at large?
Oh, definitely misunderstood. I think it's a work of genius. I think it's like a Pet Sounds level good album.
Really?
Yeah, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. I think it's brilliant. If you want to ask people how to make a good album, I'd tell them to put this one on.
So you think that Tusk is the blueprint for a good album?
Yeah, kind of in a lot of ways, or at least a good experimental album.
Okay, ladies and
I mean,
gentlemen.
not every album can be Tusk. If every album was just
You're frozen.
like changes the game, like I think it's definitely one of the best examples.
You froze there for a sec. What did you say?
I think in terms of albums that are like game changers and like in terms of ambitious double albums, I think it's like top of the line. Like I think it's like it's a better double album than like Physical Graffiti or like stuff like that, in my opinion. I'd say it's probably even a better double album than Blonde on Blonde, to be completely honest.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's a tall order. All right. Okay.
Yeah, I just think you have three brilliant songwriters together because all three of them are brilliant. No matter like how I feel about Stevie's voice, she comes up with some brilliant ideas for sure.
But
I can't take that away from her.
But sorry, not to cut you off, but you do believe that Stevie Nicks needs someone else, whether it be a Lindsey Buckingham or Jimmy Iovine or whoever, Tom Petty, to flesh out her ideas full, like to bring them out.
Well, I really don't like Jimmy Iovine. I'm going to put that like that. I think he's horrible. I think he's like a shit producer. I've never liked that guy. But
Okay.
but um I don't know. At least just at this point. I mean, she was young. She wasn't like a long time songwriter, I don't think, up to this point. I think she was newer at it.
Okay.
Um I just don't really care to listen to her solo stuff that much. I mean, there might be better stuff that I don't know about in it. Um, I'm just not really that big a fan because I don't like Belladonna that much. I like Edge's 17. I think that's a brilliant song. I think um I think like Stop Dragging My Heart Around is all right. But like Leather and Lace is fucking embarrassing. Um and like there's a lot of embarrassing moments on that album. And I feel that way about a lot of the other stuff I've heard too. So I don't know, but like I do think they're all brilliant in their own right. Um, because the album wouldn't have been the same if all three of them weren't there. Like I think
Hmm.
Lindsay could have made a terrific album on his own at this point in time,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't have been Tusk though.
No.
Because you need Christine and you need Stevie to make it full. And I think that also probably where they were at as a band of not getting along
Yeah.
definitely like stemmed the creative energy too.
Yeah.
So it's a very much an album that was right place, right time. Because I think if any circumstance with it would have been different, then it wouldn't have been the album that it is,
Okay.
obviously.
Okay. Well, it's got to be said too that just quickly that uh Christine McVie, before she passed away, had said that with regards to the future of Fleetwood Mac, that there should be one more tour, but the only way that that would ever work properly is if Lindsey Buckingham was involved,
Yeah, I
because
agree.
they loved each other, they respected one another, they got along very well as songwriters, they complemented each other fantastically because they listened to their ideas. I don't think that that is the case with, or that was the case with Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks. I think,
Yeah.
and in closing, I think with regards to this topic, I think that I like Tusk a great deal. I really do. I love songs like "What Makes You Think You're the One," "Think About Me," the title track, "Sarah." Um, you know,
Yeah.
I think I
There's a
think
lot of
I think it's a
sorry.
good, sorry, it's a, I was just gonna say I think it's a good mix of songs. I think that a band should be allowed to do at some point do what they want to do in terms of
Yeah.
changing their musical style or doing something different. Um, Hot Space notwithstanding, we won't go there. But
10 out of 10.
in your very humble opinion, um, I think that I do not believe this album to be a failure. Um, and, and I'm going to put this question out to people out there. Why should a band repeat themselves musically? You know, um, why should a band not be allowed to do something different with their music? So do I think it was misguided? Do I think it was misunderstood? I I do believe it was misunderstood by them, by the public at large. I I do think that if you were expecting a follow-up to Rumors, a direct follow-up, you were disappointed, and that onus is on you. You know, I think that
Yeah.
a band should be able to do what they want to do with their music. And in terms of them turning on Lindsey Buckingham after the release of Tusk, you know what? You were in the studio with him. If we didn't like something, you could have opened your mouth and said something and said, no, I don't like the way this drum track sounds. I don't like this piano sequence. Let's do it differently and
Yeah.
give more of an input. So, but yeah, I mean, is there anything else you want to add or to this idea?
I think it just shows who the great performers in the band are and who the artists are that they turned on Stevie. Or not that they turned on Lindsay.
Mm-hmm.
They're all great performers, but if they can't handle a failure in the name of art, then they're weak.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. So you heard it from us, guys. You know,
10 out of 10.
you know, it sounds what? Sorry, go ahead.
I said 10 out of 10.
Oh, a 10 out of 10. I'd give it a 9.5.
Nice.
I'd give it, I do think that with the exception of Sarah, I think that, and the reason why I give it 9.5, sorry, backtrack. With the exception of Sarah, I do think that um oh God, Stevie Nicks, her contributions kind of bring the album down. I think that Lindsey Buckingham's tracks are fantastic. I think that Christine McVie's tracks are great. So I think that, you know, songs like Sisters of the Moon and Angel, I'm like, okay, you know what?
I
No,
do like Sisters of the Moon quite a bit. Angel, I think, is just a little.
a little, sorry, you cut out there. You're slowing down there.
It's a little boring. Um,
Yeah.
Angel because I think there's a lot of cool country song rather than like a Fleetwood Mac twist on country. It's kind of boring to me. Um, so yeah, I will agree that that one's probably one of the weaker ones on the album, but I do like Sister of the Moon. I think it's cool, and I think Storms is beautiful as well.
Okay. Well, that's our opinion. I mean, we don't have
Yeah,
to
no, absolutely.
agree all the time. So, anyways, guys, that brings us to the end of this particular video. Leave your comments down below, whether or not you think that Tusk is a misguided attempt by the band, or whether you believe that it was misunderstood by the audience at large. And you know, leave me your comments and let me know what you think. I mean, I like to get a dialogue going on this. So, you know, that's what this is all about. And please, again, click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for any new content that I've got coming up. And yeah, again, for Ryan Gavalier, I'm Armando Venditti. Hopefully you guys are having a great Sunday. This will be airing Thursday. So and hopefully you guys are looking after yourselves and one another. And we'll be back with another video at some point. I think we'll maybe discuss this
Yes.
off camera. So for Mr. Gavalier, I'm Armando Venditti. Have a good day and take care. Bye for now.
Thanks for having me on.
Anytime.